Relentless torrential rain and violent earthquakes shatter the mighty ocean barriers, unleashing a catastrophic flood that engulfs an entire city in raging waters. Homes and vehicles float helplessly like fragile boats across the submerged streets, yet the true terror is not the rising tide itself. Lurking in the depths are massive, bloodthirsty sharks that have poured into every alley and flooded avenue. One wrong step into the water means instant death as these predators strike without mercy. Amid this chaos, a pregnant woman sits trapped inside her car, watching in desperation as two men paddle past in a small boat. She cries out for help. The men turn and leap into the water to reach her, sealing their fate in a single reckless decision. One man glances back only to find his companion vanished. Racing the search, he discovers his friend thrashing in agony, one arm severed, screaming in torment before a monstrous shark drags him screaming into the black depths. Panic explodes across the survivor's face as he flees wildly through the flooded streets, but there is nowhere to run. In the next heartbeat, the shark claims him too, leaving the pregnant woman still sealed inside her vehicle, the only fragile barrier between her and certain death, as the water level continues its relentless climb. The floodwaters rise higher with every passing minute, threatening to swallow the trapped pregnant woman whole, even if the sharks never reach her. Across the devastated city, only a handful of souls remain, trapped by their own stubborn choices. Days earlier, repeated warnings had blared across every screen. Evacuate immediately before the rains and quakes breach the barriers. Most heeded the call, packing what they could and fleeing. Yet Dakota refuses to abandon her home, clinging to the familiar walls even as the danger draws closer. Nearby, three siblings splash carelessly in a small pool, laughing and diving without a thought for the approaching catastrophe. Their stepfather arrives in fury, scolding them harshly before forcing them into the car and driving them home. Elsewhere, Lisa speeds toward another city to reach her mother when a frantic call comes through. The storm has closed every bridge. Seeing the growing panic in the streets, Lisa realizes a far greater disaster is unfolding. Continuous rain and violent aftershocks tear the city apart until the ocean walls finally collapse, sending a roaring wall of water surging toward the remaining inhabitants, who still have no idea what is coming. Lisa senses the growing threat and floors the accelerator, racing for higher ground. Ahead, the driver of a massive truck warns her that a fallen tree has blocked the road completely and urges her to turn back and follow him. In the next second, the man sees the towering wave of floodwater thundering toward them. He shouts for Lisa to drive forward and reach high ground at once. She floors it straight toward the tree, but her tire catches on a thick branch and the car jams solid. Behind her, the flood swallows the truck whole and carries it away. Inside her house, Dakota remains blissfully unaware until she glances through the window and freezes in horror. Water has already risen high around her home. She stumbles backwards just as the doors burst open and the flood pours inside. Nearby, William dozes peacefully after selling horses, until his family sees the approaching horror and their smiles shatter into pure terror. They scream for him to wake as the water invades their home. Outside, Lisa's car is swept along by the current until a tree looms ahead. A jagged branch smashes through the windshield, pinning her helplessly to the seat so she cannot escape. The massive truck that was swept away crashes into an iron statue and ruptures, spilling a thick, blood-like substance across the flooded streets. The metallic scent of blood draws the ocean's deadliest hunters inland. Sharks begin pouring into the city, sensing fresh prey. Still trapped in her car only meters away, Lisa spots two men paddling past in a small boat. Desperate, she shouts for help. Without thinking, one man dives straight into the water and swims toward her, discovering she is pinned by the thick branch. He calls urgently for his bearded companion to bring the large cutter. The friend grabs the tool and jumps in, only to be yanked violently beneath the surface a second later. The bearded man turns and finds empty water where his friend had been. Terror floods his face as he searches, until the friend suddenly surfaces in agony, one arm gone, before the shark pulls him under once more. The bearded survivor's courage shatters. He turns and sprints back toward Lisa's car, planning to climb on top for safety, but the shark surges from behind, seizes him, and drags him into the depths just as he nearly reaches the vehicle. High in her flooded house, Dakota leans from an upper window, repeating the same terrified words over and over. Nearby, a man who has been sleeping soundly in his car jolts awake and finds the ground vanishing beneath him. He fights to open the window against the powerful current, then kicks it repeatedly in rage until the glass finally shatters. The noise draws a shark that rockets toward him. The moment the window breaks, the predator attacks and kills him instantly. Not far away, William and his wife decide to abandon the children and slip away to a nearby car. Their plan is to take the vehicle and escape. The moment William reaches it, a shark lunges and tears into his arm. His wife is seized completely and dragged under as the children watch in frozen horror from the house. William forces the door open and climbs inside, even as the shark bites into his lower body and tries to pull him back. Through sheer desperate strength, he manages to break free and seal himself inside the car, bloodied but alive. Lisa remains pinned inside her flooding car, watching the water climb higher with every minute. In 10 more minutes, she will drown if she cannot escape. From the upper window, Dakota sees everything and knows that going down to help means swimming through shark-infested water. Lisa begs desperately for help until Dakota can no longer refuse. She grabs a dagger, climbs through the upper window, and jumps onto a nearby car, only for her foot to slip and send her plunging into the water. She scrambles up again and leaps onto a broken rooftop, closing the distance. On her final step, she falls once more, but seizes a branch and hauls herself onto Lisa's car. With fierce determination, she saws through the branch, pinning Lisa until it finally snaps. Together, they climb back through the window into the relative safety of the house. Nearby, the 3 siblings huddle on a slightly elevated spot inside their home, eyes locked on the open doorway, terrified that a shark will enter at any moment. They decide the door must be closed. The girl edges carefully toward the door and stretches out to pull it shut. But a massive shark surges through the opening and glides past her into the house. She loses her balance in pure panic. From a distance, her brother calls out that she will be fine and must not let go of the door under any circumstances. If her grip fails, she will fall straight into the water where the shark waits. Her arms burn with strain, and her feet begin to slip until her brother lunges forward and pulls her back to safety. Meanwhile, Dakota and Lisa climb to the upper floor and plan their escape. Dakota gathers clothing and climbs onto the roof, arranging the fabric into a clear distress signal so any passing helicopter will know survivors remain inside. When she looks down, she sees the water below thick with circling sharks. The 3 siblings argue about leaving. The older brother insists they cannot stay. As the water continues to rise, their conversation is cut short when 3 sharks appear directly in front of them. The older brother declares they need weapons from the basement, though reaching them means crossing open water where 3 sharks already lurk. William arrives, writhing in pain from his earlier wounds, and demands the older boy fetch the car where the shark attacked him and killed his wife. The boy refuses, fed up with William's long history of cruelty. The argument explodes until the girl kicks William hard, sending him tumbling into the water. A nearby shark instantly seizes him and drags him under. Inside the house, Lisa tells Dakota that labor pains have begun. In the middle of a flooded city swarming with sharks, she is about to give birth. Dakota gives her a painkiller tablet, hoping it will buy a little time. Dakota then gathers small objects capable of creating vibration, remembering her uncle's warning that sharks are drawn to such sounds. She seals the devices in plastic, drops them into the water from the window, then climbs down herself. The plan works at first, as the sharks swarm toward the vibrating objects, but they quickly devour every device until nothing remains to distract them. Dakota realizes she must find safety at once. The floating face of a dead man suddenly drifts into view, and she screams, fleeing at full speed. The 3 siblings wait until the water around them seems clear of sharks. The oldest brother then lowers himself into the water to reach the basement weapons, only for a shark to appear behind him. His clothing snags and he struggles free, grabs for a gun that will not come loose, then seizes another object and races back upstairs, barely outmaneuvering the predator. Once safe, they examine what he brought: meat and dynamite that can function as bombs. They quickly form a plan, wrapping dynamite around a piece of meat, lighting a short fuse, and tossing the deadly bait into the water. Outside, Dakota sits in a small boat and watches her house finally collapse. Lisa is forced into the open water and swims desperately for any high ground. She reaches a cluster of scattered wooden debris just as her labor peaks, and she gives birth. A shark charges straight at Lisa and her newborn. She seizes a sharp, broken plank and declares she will fight even a shark for her child. As the predator closes in, she drives the wood into it with all her strength, forcing it to retreat. Immediately, a second shark races toward her. From a short distance, Dakota raises a spear and aims carefully. The moment the shark comes within range, she loses the spear, striking true and driving the creature away. Dakota brings the small boat alongside and helps Lisa and the baby aboard, but another shark slams into the vessel in pure rage and flips it, casting both women into the water once more. No escape remains until Dakota's uncle arrives like a guardian angel in a boat with several companions. He hurls an electric device into the water. The moment the sharks touch it, a powerful jolt sends 3 of them fleeing in different directions. One stubborn shark continues its charge until a far larger shark, 5 times its size, surges up, engulfs the smaller predator whole, and vanishes into the depths with its meal. Dakota's uncle stares in stunned silence at the massive predator's attack. Inside the house, the 3 siblings wait, but no sharks approach their bait. The youngest boy remembers a documentary claiming sharks are drawn to vibrations. All 3 begin thrashing their arms and legs in the water, creating powerful disturbances. Within moments, multiple sharks converge on the area. The scent of the dynamite-wrapped meat pulls every one of them onto the bait. The siblings dive behind a large, solid object for cover, just as a tremendous explosion rips through the water, shredding the sharks into pieces and killing many outright. When the chaos settles, the surrounding water is clear. The sharks driven off by the uncle's electric device and those destroyed by the dynamite leave the area empty of predators. The 3 siblings draw a long breath of relief. Outside, the survivors begin their journey out of the ruined city toward safety. Through sheer courage and against impossible odds, Lisa has given birth and kept her child alive through the entire deadly ordeal. With the immediate threat gone, the survivors leave the devastated streets behind and head for another city. Lisa's fierce determination has carried her through flooding waters, pinning debris, and relentless shark attacks, while bringing a new life into the world and protecting it every step of the way. The nightmare that began with collapsing ocean barriers and a city drowning beneath the waves finally reaches its end, as the last of the predators are either driven off or destroyed. The flooded avenues fall silent once more, the remaining survivors moving carefully across the water toward whatever safety still exists beyond the ruined skyline. The story of those who refused to abandon their homes, those who fought for one another, and the mother who refused to let the ocean claim her child closes on the quiet determination of people who refuse to die. In the aftermath, the survivors continue their slow departure from the submerged city. The water still high, but no longer filled with circling fins. The 3 siblings, Dakota, Lisa, and the newborn, move together toward higher ground and the hope of rescue. Every street they cross holds the memory of those who were taken, yet the living press forward. The electric devices and the dynamite have cleared a temporary path, giving them the chance to escape before more predators arrive from the open ocean. The city that once stood proud now lies broken beneath the flood, its remaining inhabitants reduced to a handful of determined souls who have stared death in the jaws and refused to look away. Their journey out of the disaster zone becomes the final act of endurance. After hours of terror, loss, and desperate improvisation against creatures that should never have entered the streets of a city, the group pushes onward through the flooded ruins, every stroke of a paddle or careful step across debris, carrying them farther from the worst of the destruction. Lisa holds her newborn close, the child's survival a quiet miracle against the chaos that nearly claimed them both. Dakota stays near, the bond forged in the struggle now guiding their shared path to safety. Behind them, the empty waterways hold only the remnants of the battle, scattered debris, the lingering scent of blood, and the knowledge that the ocean's hunters can return at any moment. The uncle and his companions keep watch from their boat, ready with the remaining electric devices should another fin break the surface. What began as isolated pockets of survivors fighting alone has become a small convoy of the living, moving together toward the edge of the drowned city and the uncertain promise of dry land beyond. As the survivors near the outer limits of the flooded zone, the water begins to grow shallower in places, offering the first real hope of solid ground. The three siblings stay close, the older brother still scanning every shadow for movement, while the younger two draw quiet strength from their shared survival. Dakota glances back once at the ruins of her home, now little more than a broken frame, half swallowed by the tide, then turns her face toward the open route ahead. Lisa's arms never loosen around the newborn, the child's soft breathing a constant reminder of everything that was nearly lost. The uncle's boat keeps pace, its presence a steady shield against any late-arriving predators. The long nightmare of collapsing barriers, rising water, and the sudden invasion of the deep is finally releasing its grip, replaced by the slow, careful work of simply staying alive long enough to reach help. The last stretches of flooded street give way to clearer channels leading out of the city. The group moves with renewed purpose, the earlier terror settling into exhausted determination. Every member of the small band carries the weight of what they have witnessed. Friends and family taken in an instant, homes destroyed, and the knowledge that the ocean can still reach them if they grow careless. Yet they continue. The newborn's presence a living emblem of defiance against the disaster. Dakota's earlier distress signal on the rooftop may yet bring helicopters, but for now they rely only on their own strength and the remaining tools that have kept the sharks at bay. The water around them stays empty of fins, the earlier explosion and electric shocks having bought the precious window they needed. Step by careful step, stroke by steady stroke, they leave the drowned city behind. Beyond the final submerged buildings, the survivors catch their first clear sight of open ground and the possibility of rescue. The ordeal that began with the collapse of the ocean barriers and the invasion of the streets by creatures of the deep has tested every limit of human endurance. Lisa's successful delivery and protection of her child stand as the brightest thread through the darkness. Dakota's courage in leaving safety to free a stranger, the siblings' desperate improvisation with dynamite, and the uncle's timely arrival with electric weapons have all woven together into a single hard-won survival. As they reach safer waters, the weight of loss remains. Yet so does the simple fact of their continued breath. The flooded city falls behind them like a closing chapter of nightmare, its silence now broken only by the soft sound of their progress toward whatever tomorrow still waits. The story reaches its end as the last of the survivors leave the ruined city behind, carrying with them the newborn who entered the world in the middle of chaos and lived. Lisa's unyielding fight against flood and predator has preserved both her own life and the fragile new one she brought forth. The remaining group moves onward, the immediate threat of the sharks finally broken by courage, ingenuity, and a measure of luck. What remains is the quiet aftermath of a disaster that swallowed an entire city and tested every soul who refused to abandon it. The waters still cover the streets, the barriers still lie shattered, yet a handful of people have endured. Their journey out of the darkness closes the tale of survival against an enemy that rose from the deep,